We're Littleborough Productions, and it's us four and Travis when he actually turns up. But we called it Littleborough Productions because obviously we're in Littleborough building, and it makes it sound more professional than any random name we've come up with. It's just 5 individuals from Hotwood College, obviously. We're a touring theatre company that uses tours to communicate the subject, I can't remember the word then, the subject of domestic abuse to people in education like schools. It's just acting and a dance piece. We're using physical theatre, Stanislavski and Brecht because we feel like it would help to convey the message in an effective way if we mix them together. And we're just going to different schools to try and teach them about the thing.
What are we performing about? Littleborough Productions are performing a theatre and education piece on domestic abuse. We feel that this theatre and education performance will be based on how men can be abused by women and how it isn't spoken about as much. We are aiming our performance to be roughly half an hour long, including acting and dancing scenes. We are also including how domestic abuse can be resolved and including the different types of abuse that can be caused.
We have also provided an aftercare leaflet which we'll be handing out after the performance, as we're not just trying to do a performance, we are also trying to educate on the matter and then to understand they can get help if they need it. So if you'd just like to look at the leaflet, and Lewis will read out the first page.
Okay, so what is Littleborough Productions? So it's practically already been stated really. We're a group of 5 individuals at Hotwood College, and we're going around educating people with a performance on domestic abuse. What our performance involves, it includes acting that portrays an aspect of what domestic abuse can be and how to deal with it. Our performance will give you a little insight on how a woman can be the abusive partner in a relationship towards a husband, because I think 9 times out of 10 it's not really seen. It's just normally the man being the abusive one in the relationship. But we thought we'd show a completely different aspect of it, basically switch tables on it and do it the opposite way.
Especially as we feel that when men try to explain that they're being abused by their female significant other, they're generally not taken very seriously. Everybody just thinks it's a joke, nobody ever believes
because
that.
a man is supposed to be the wolf in the pack. So obviously being abused by the woman, it just, it can be embarrassing for some men. We're doing this so we can help people to understand how domestic abuse can affect the people around you and many other factors of that person's life. And this will also help you to look out for signs of domestic abuse as well.
We've also included a leaflet in there which we feel that because it's more, as it has pictures in it and it's more bold and it doesn't, just go on a bit, we feel like it's more the target audiences. We are looking at high schools from year 10 upwards.
Year 9 upwards.
Year 9 upwards. So we just feel as it's just stating the facts and it explains it easier. And we've also got some helplines at the back which Emily will read out, and it just covers all the different aspects of the domestic abuse.
There's the 24-hour National Domestic Violence Helpline, which you can read it yourself, to be honest. Women's Domestic Abuse Helpline, the 24-hour Domestic and Sexual Abuse Helpline, support lines, child lines, 18 and under support lines, Muslim under 25 youth helplines, NSPCC Child Protection, and National Centre for Domestic Violence.
What we found as well is, because we wanted to base it on the men being abused by the woman, it was actually very hard to find a helpline for men to ring. But once we created the leaflet, then after that we found one. But out of all the research we did, we literally only found one.
Which was annoying because there were a lot on for just women or just children.
But that's another thing, obviously, seeing how there's only one, that also sort of proves that really it's not really a spoken topic and it needs to be
so we just want to raise awareness for it.
Yeah.
And we feel like the issue is because people see it as a rare thing, they think that nobody should talk about it, and we don't agree with that. We think that it's an issue that should be addressed, and normalise the idea, not that it's a good thing, but normalise the idea that it's possible for it to happen.
Because everyone just kind of goes by the assumption if anyone's being abused in a relationship, it's going to be the woman
Yeah.
for some reason.
We've also got some venues as well, but
We've booked 2 schools for between the 13th and 16th of March 2017. I contacted Wardle and we've booked a time on the 14th of March in front of Year 10s aged between 14 to 15 years old. St Cuthbert's is going to be around the 15th of March in front of Year 9s aged 13 to 14. And we thought this is a suitable age group because we're going to be able to educate these students and provide help if they need it. And due to the topic of it, we feel like the Year 9s above would be more capable of understanding it, and whereas it would be, we feel Year 7s and 8s would be a little bit too young to fully understand what we're trying to address.
Well, the majority of them anyway, because obviously there will be certain people that do.
We're also trying to target it specifically at drama and performing arts students, as we feel it'll be easier for them to pick up the message of what we're trying to convey, and in the case of Year 10s and 11s, might help to give them ideas on their own performances, which will help them towards their exams. Some of the practitioners that are influencing our performance include Stanislavski and Brecht. We're using some elements of physical theatre, and we've chosen to use Stanislavski and Brecht because we feel it's an effective way to communicate our ideas to our audience. And for example, the naturalistic style will help to convey the situation in a realistic light, since distancing the audience too much might make them feel like many of the elements of domestic violence that we're portraying are unrealistic, which isn't true. But the non-naturalistic elements will help to encourage the audience to actually think about the themes of the performance as opposed to just being in a trance-like state. So we feel it will help them to better understand and think about what we're actually trying to convey.
we've also got the plot sorted, even though we might end up changing some of the scenes, some of the feedback we've got. We've changed it, so it's going to go from a daddy-daughter scene. This also shows like the different type of abuse you'll get. So it goes the mum emotionally abusing the dad. Scene 3 was a bit hard to explain. So daughters come home from school, and one of the daughters asks if 2 people might hit each other. So then the mum comes in and shouts to leaving a mess, and then when the dad comes home, she hits him because she thinks that he's been cheating. So this shows like a way of abuse, as in like the woman could be thinking things that aren't real, and it could lead to abuse. Then after that, when the daughters come in, they pretend everything's okay, just to show nothing's going on, to work up the daughters. Then after that, the daughters will have a dual monologue, or one each, we haven't decided that yet. Then from the research, the safeguarding team ring home from the school. There'll be a meeting between the mum and daughter 1 and the safeguarding officer. A movement between the mum and the dad, which we wanted to show like actually a fight basically, but we wanted to do it a different way instead of just having a fight on stage. Then a split monologue, and the social worker arrives. A prison sentencing from the mum, because we feel that we don't want it just to end as in our happy family, because that's not always what happens. And then monologue from the dad, but we're also going to use Rebecca as a dual role for in case Travis is not in for some of the days, and it just works out better. So we've also got set design, which we're doing 3 set designs. One will be at home, one will be with a meeting, and one will be when the social worker arrives. Oh, and the court sentencing.
They'll be designed a little bit better than that, though. That's just a rough idea. It's just a rough idea of what they're going to look like.
We're also going to try and not add too much detail to the set because, again, we want it to be somewhat non-naturalistic, and also just it's a simpler set. A simpler set design will mean it's easier to set up due to the fact that obviously we're not just staying in one venue, we're going to different venues.
Plus it'll be easier to change scenes if there isn't many props to do.
Yeah. Travis is getting together a costume design, but we can't find it at the moment. And
Yes,
he's not
there
in-
was at this point, but
and he's not in to tell us
unfortunately I can't get hold of it.
where it is. We've For roles, I'm personally going to be doing providing some of the props that we need, and hopefully for things like chairs, the school will be able to provide those for us. But some of the other props I will be providing.
I was doing research to get the numbers and hotlines and stuff like that.
I was taking on the production line, so any lighting or sound that we might use in the performance. So for example, like for the dance, we have a song, so I'll be taking care of that. I'll be taking care of the set as well, and just other little various things here and there.
And I'm the liaison, that's how you say
And obviously Travis was on costume.
it. Yes, but I think we're just all going to put together for that one.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Did you say which school you've contacted?
Um,
Which schools have you got in touch with?
I've got in contact with Wardle. Emily's got in contact with
St.
St.
Cuthbert's.
Cuthbert's.
I think
Did you go to Nortra?
they didn't get back to me,
Ah.
and I did do a follow-up call, and they still not got back to me.
Who did you say could take Travis's part?
Rebecca.
Have you started learning his part already?
Yeah,
So
with
it's
with
only a
the
s-
scenes.
Yeah, it's a small part for it.
Because what I think like pretend, because it won't be in most of the days anyway, so
Yeah.
might as well start phasing him out.
Yeah, well, we've done that because we know that he's not going to be, because he's got some personal
That's why we
business
Yeah.
that's why we only give them a small role anyway, because
Yeah,
we
we
knew
knew
we
we were
were
going
we
to
knew
have
the
to.
situation. We thought, well, as long as it's a small part for him at least, if worse comes to
You could
worse,
tell in
we
the
can-
first place though, he wasn't reliable.
Yeah, it's got.
Yeah, he'll be able to
it's
do
got
it like
some
tutorials and stuff, just not.
Yeah, just not for the actual days where we're going out to schools, but we can replace him for that. It's not a problem.
Right.
How long did it take to come up with this idea?
The idea itself, not about not on.
It weren't long. I mean, we went with the idea. We did a chart and we put in all the different types of stuff that we could do the performance on, and then we all just went through it realistically and just thought, nah, these aren't going to work. We can't do this, can't do that, and then we ended up just coming down to domestic abuse.
Why doesn't your name link to domestic abuse?
Because
Because we
it just
couldn't think
doesn't-
of one that could be related to it. We don't want it to be like a comedy side, we are trying to do it serious,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we
We're
didn't
not
want it
trying to be
it's like,
comedic.
Any more? Josh?
You could probably have like a subheading though, like underneath your title saying, this is like it, or like, stop this now or something.
Yeah, I know it could have been like
I know what you
or
mean.
something.
It could also be
The
because
like a bit of the title could be linked.
it could also
Yeah.
be because realistically, a lot of
Yeah.
touring companies wouldn't necessarily always only focus all their productions on just one thing. So
Yeah, but
they'll
you guys
focus
are.
on different things. Yeah, but it's just somewhat realistic.
Well, we chose
we
it
just thought it
our
was a
bloody
good
name.
name, so we put that and we decided.
Well, if you think it's a good name, then it's a
Well,
good
thank
name.
you, Phoebe.
Yeah.
Like with the contacts, you said you've only managed to find one who deal with males who are being abused. Who have you got into who have you been in contact with?
What was...
Jaria?
I did ring her and she said she was too busy to come in, and then she was just giving me some... What's the word? Some, like, help over the phone. So to be fair, she weren't much help.
Right. Maybe think about organising another call.
She said, I told her the dates when we're doing it, and she said she's not available at all.
Right, but just to find, because she's bound to have loads of contact details, so you could put like some more helplines in your resource pack. So I would give her another go.
But we can always put in that sheet.
Yeah, but rather than like getting her to come in to do a meeting with you, just organise like a phone call or 3 emails, something like that.
Yeah.
This resource pack, are these yellow pages copied from another resource pack?
No. They're not from a resource pack. They're just from online. I don't know where.
But have they been completely copied off like online?
No,
It's
yeah.
not. No.
No, me and Lewis sat together, but we did like take the template off it, and we have the pictures the same, but the information
Right.
we changed a bit. So
Right.
it's not copyrighted.
Just
And
make
even-
sure it's not
And
completely
even then,
copied.
it's still somewhat of a rough draft, so it
Yeah,
will be
yeah.
easy to change
We
if
can
you
all,
want to.
Yeah. but just make sure it's not been completely copied off
we'll
like something
do,
else.
like, you know, because copyright, so maybe
Yeah.
we sat down and they do the template and then we just change information
Mhm.
inside of it, so it's not exactly the same.
Yeah. Cool. Any other questions? No. Well done.